Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Facebook Live. My name is Andrew. I'll be hosting. We're going to be talking to a couple of our alumni ambassadors who are living over in Asia. We've got Kenny over in Vietnam. We've got Alyssa over in China. And yeah, we're just going to be talking about their experience teaching in Asia. I myself taught over in South Korea. So we've got 3 countries represented here. A lot of good insight for all of you who are thinking about moving to Asia. So welcome, guys. Welcome, Kenny. Welcome, Alyssa. It's great to have you. First, we'll go to Alyssa. Can you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about, just your story, a quick, short version, and yeah, we'll go from there.
All right. Okay. Hey, guys. I'm Alyssa. I am currently teaching in Beijing, China. I've been here a little over a year. Before that, I was living in Kentucky, working at Starbucks, and spending like $1,000 every few months to go travel. So I finally made the move to actually just be here and travel for a little bit cheaper. I don't know, it's been really great. I've loved it.
That's awesome. And we will talk a lot more about your situation in China. You are kind of on a unique situation, not typically the way people end up living there. So we'll definitely touch on that later. But Kenny, you're over in Vietnam. Tell us a little bit about how you ended up there, and yeah.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Kenny Nguyen. I am from Chicago, Illinois, born and raised, and I have been in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam for a little bit, 8 months already. This was totally unplanned. Initially, I was working in Japan, but I lived in the countryside, and so I got really depressed, and I'm like, all right, I need to make the next move. So, Vietnam was appealing to me, and I have family here that I don't really know. So, I'm getting... I came to Vietnam.
That's great. Yeah, there's so many cool reasons to go and teach abroad. Sometimes it's not the ones that you expect, or you don't end up where you expect. So for both of you guys, I guess we'll throw it to Alyssa first. So teaching over in China, one thing that what made you want to go and teach there? What was it about China that sort of drew you to want to teach there?
Right. So China is huge, like really, really big. And so I guess I was just excited at the fact that I had never been to Asia. I could live in a country that is so massive that every single day, even in one city, I can experience something new. So it just felt like a huge adventure. And then also from China, you have so many places to travel from there. And on top of that, I had heard that you can make a lot of money working in China. I found that to be true, which is great. But yeah, those are the 2 big things, is really wanting to explore Asia and knowing that I could, prepare for a future while exploring.
Yeah, absolutely. I know finances is one of the reasons that people want to go teach in Asia. I know for me, it was initially. I was like, that seems really attractive. I'll go there. And then once I got there, I realized that there's just so much that Asia has to offer, whether it's Korea, Japan, Vietnam. There's just, it's so different and so rich and so great. So, and Kenny, how about you? I know you mentioned a little bit in your intro, kind of what brought you there, but what else was it? What initially, gave you that push to go and leave and go to Japan?
Could you say that one more time? You're breaking up.
Yeah, sure. Just what pushed you to go and teach abroad, or what was it that drew you to Asia specifically? I know you said you had some family in Vietnam, but you mentioned you were in Japan. So, what was it that drew you to want to teach in Asia?
Yeah, so ever since I was young, my parents took me to Vietnam over 8 times in my life, and I mostly spent time up in the northern part of Vietnam in the small city, kind of like Hawaii of the Vietnam, called Da Nang. And I spent a lot of time with my family there. And, Vietnam was always a place in my heart. I love Vietnamese food. I love Vietnamese cuisine. And, family is what attracted me here the most. Like before, when I came here, I didn't really get to know my family in Saigon. And I thought it was important to just go back to Vietnam, where my family, and to just experience, get to know my family on a more deeper level. And I just really want to with them, and that's what really attracted me. Aside from that, Saigon, like it's like home base for me. Like we have Cambodia off to the Welland, we have Malaysia, we have China. There are so many countries that you can travel to, and it's just really affordable too. And so definitely live. I know a little bit of the Vietnamese language, so it's just great going out, getting some coffee and just sparking up a conversation with the locals, and just get to know them better and their mindset and whatnot. And this is probably like the best experience of my life so far.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. And you touched on so many different things there, and teaching abroad is such an amazing experience. You get to meet so many people, you get to experience so many things, you get to travel to cool places. It's really, it really can change your life and change your view on things. So it really is cool. So let's get into it. Let's start answering some questions about the process, because I know these are some things that people are always concerned about as they're looking to do this. Alyssa, you are in China, but you are on a tourist visa, not typically the way people go. So tell us a little bit about how you found your job and your situation with your visa.
Right. So I was super lucky, and maybe it's one of the reasons why I'm so thankful I took a TEFL course with the ITA, because an ITA alumni is how I got my job. They were posting in the ITA alumni China group about an opening at their kindergarten. They said, like, usually we want people with bachelor's degrees so we can have a Z visa, but we're open to like any qualified teacher or any enthusiastic teacher. So I got my job that way, applied, had an interview, loved the person I interviewed with, and I actually am living here with my boyfriend, who is on a Z visa, which is interesting. So I've had a little bit of experience with both processes. And I got my Chinese tourist visa. So that took a little bit. You have to apply. It costs about $100 US, I believe. And if you want to pay a visa service that does everything for you, that costs about $300 US. And once you have this tourist visa, you can go in as for a US citizen anyway. You get it for 10 years and it's multi-entry. So I could come in and out of that country every single day for 10 years and no problems. And so I work there on this tourist visa. The only stipulation is you do have to leave every 2 months. So my job just lets me take a vacation every 2 months. This is like really lucky. I do know about double the amount of people who work with a work visa that work on a non-work visa, like that work on a tourist visa. So if I'm talking about my close personal friends in China, about like 15 to 20 of them have a work visa and 30 to 40 of them have a non-working visa. So it's a lot more common for people to work here on a tourist visa, but it's not as common for people to work at a kindergarten.
Got it.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually really interesting, because I know, a lot of people want to go teach in Asia who don't have a bachelor's degree, kind of run into a lot of dead ends with some countries. But it's really nice to know that China is one of those places that you can absolutely go teach if you don't have a bachelor's degree. And just to kind of piggyback off that, is that something that you would say is typical for a bigger city in China, like somewhere like Beijing where you're living, or is that common throughout China in some smaller, well, I guess I say smaller cities, they're still really big cities, but some of the tier 2 cities?
Yeah, in tier 2 and tier 3, you'll find like normal 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. jobs that you can get on a tourist visa. In Beijing and in Shanghai and in Shenzhen, those are like some of the bigger cities, they have a lot more rules. But also in China, it doesn't really matter what's legal. It matters who has the most money. And so if you have a boss that has the most money and he likes you, he will do whatever he can to keep you, which is just a fun, weird thing. But it's just true. And yeah, so in these tier 1 cities, if you do not have a Z visa, you'll commonly work at a training center, which means that you might have 2 days off that are in the middle of the week or 2 days off that are not together. So like a Monday or Wednesday, you could work nights, you could work long hours on Saturdays. But those kind of things are just like normal to people. So it's like you're not like one out of 10 people that have it, you're in the majority of people who have those jobs. So you're still going to find a ton of people who have your lifestyle.
Yeah, that's great. It's almost like working in a restaurant or something. You've got this kind of a more erratic schedule, which I think for a lot of people is fun, so that's not necessarily a bad thing. All right, Kenny, I know sort of in Vietnam, the visa is pretty straightforward, so we don't need to touch on that a bit. Any just tips real quick that you'd want to touch on in terms of a visa and getting that arranged and how that worked?
One more time. I'm sorry, guys. I just have to let you know the Wi-Fi in Vietnam is not that great.
No.
We paid good money for it too.
No worries. Hey, you know what? We're video chatting and we're across the world, so that blows my mind always anyway. So it's working well enough. But yeah, I was just saying to touch a bit on your visa. I know it's not too complicated. It's pretty straightforward in Vietnam, so don't need to spend too much time on it. But just any tips that you'd have for anyone moving to Vietnam about the visa?
Yeah. So just a couple of tips. I am tourist visa, and since I am of Vietnamese descent, they actually gave me like multiple entries for about 8 years. And usually when I'm in Vietnam, 6 years before I would go on a visa run to Cambodia or any other Southeast Asian country. But usually schools, after work for 3 months, that's when your probationary contract is over. They'll give you like a year contract, and that's when you really need to get things going. And what they will require from FBI background check. Now, if you've been living in Vietnam for 3 months, they not only require the FBI background check, they also require a Vietnamese background check as well. So you need those 2 documents in hand. Aside from that, if you get a health check back home in the US, it's not valid here. So land in Ho Chi Minh City or any city in Vietnam, go to the local hospitals or go to the international hospital and get a health checkup for foreigners. That's going to cost you around $56 US, approximately 1,300,000 Vietnam dong. So once you have that in hand, you also need to get your documents notarized, your TEFL, your university diploma, your FBI background check, and that's going to go around $50 US. And once you have all that, it's smooth sailing from there. You just hand it to your school and they'll handle the rest. I work in a small school, so unfortunately they don't do, they don't get that process for me. I have to take it to a third-party visa service provider. And at the moment, right there, I paid almost $400 US to get my my working permit and visa. So, yeah, I guess it's a lot of money.
Yeah, something to keep in mind. You might have a couple extra startup costs when going to Vietnam. But another thing too is, main takeaway there is just be prepared and know what documents you have to have with you. You don't want to get there and be scrambling that you don't have your transcripts or something or whatever it may be. So make sure that you are prepared and, work with your student affairs advisor in advance. Make sure you're doing your research and, just have all that stuff prepared so you're not rushing and scrambling right before you leave with all those background checks and stuff. Okay, now to get away from that stuff for a second, let's talk about the cities that you guys are living in. So Kenny, we'll start with you. You are in Ho Chi Minh City. Tell us some things that you like about living in the city, and also kind of work into it. How much do you get to travel, or how much do you travel outside of where you are in Ho Chi Minh?
Okay, gotcha. So let's see. I've been living in Ho Chi Minh City for about 8 months. And since I work at a small private center, they're actually really flexible with my hours. Today, yesterday I taught 3. Tomorrow I only have 2 classes. So there's so much free time on my hands. And usually, I just check out the districts, like District 1, that's the downtown area, or the Tao Dien district, which is the expat area, kind of like games when they have like all those districts and whatnot. But I just love Ho Chi Minh City. I just love going downtown because the French, they used to colonize Vietnam, and after they left the country, they also left some pretty breathtaking buildings behind. And I just love Ho Chi Minh City because you can see the remnants of the French building pretty much everywhere in town. It's beautiful, it's artistically designed, and it just makes the city so vibrant, And sometimes when I'm walking on Nguyen Hue Street, very popular for tourists and locals, I just love seeing the buildings because like great job history. And it's always amazing to see Vietnam, progressing, because this used to be a war-torn country. My mom and my dad fled this out in the middle of the ocean, and and they told me they would never want to come back. But it's going through major developments right now, and I'm just like deep down inside, like I'm happy to see that the people of Vietnam are well off today than they were back in the past. What else do I like to do in Ho Chi Minh City? Explore hems. So hems are basically like alleyways, and they are hidden away in the streets of Vietnam. These places, I could say, are very mysterious at night because, who wants to walk down a dark, say, but it's a hidden gem. In these alleyways, you can find like coffee shops, restaurants, like just bars, and that you would never even think of if you passed it by. But I found a lot of cute coffee shops, and I spent a lot of my time there because I love Vietnamese coffee. What else do I like about Ho Chi Minh City?
Those are some great things, and it seemed like pretty insider tips too to find those back alleys. If you are ever in Vietnam, definitely check that out. And we're gonna come back to your coffee. I know you like coffee a lot, so we're gonna talk about food and some of those type of things in a few minutes here. So we'll come back to that. But Alyssa, Beijing, obviously an enormous city, like more enormous than anyone can really imagine unless you've been somewhere like that. So tell us a bit about, what you like to do in Beijing and some cool things about your city.
All right, so you're right, it's huge, and nothing brings me more joy than thinking about the fact that I haven't seen an eighth of the city. Like, it's so big. But I used to live in an area called Wangjing, which is actually a Korean district. And what I loved about that was just, I thought it's so unique to live somewhere that's a Korean district in China. So there's lots of Korean influences. So as soon as I left Wangjing, I could leave and go to some places that seemed so much more Chinese. Which was really interesting. There's so many festivals going on right now. There's the Hot and Spicy Festival. We have a craft brewery festival coming up. There's just a lot more of like coming from a small town in Kentucky. Like there's always something, which is really cool.
No,
I never get tired of exploring.
I'm sure that was a pretty big change going from, Middle America to, Beijing, Middle China. So that's really cool. I was actually living in Busan, South Korea.
I was just there.
Were you?
I was there for the Chinese New Year.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, Busan is an incredible city. I loved living there. I lived about 10 minutes from Hyundai Beach, which is a really cool place to be. So it's if any of you guys are thinking about going to teach in South Korea, Busan is a awesome place to go. So definitely check that out. Cool. So moving on a little bit, Alyssa, in terms of your TEFL certification course, which course did you take? Did you go online, in person, and tell us a bit about that?
I chose to do online because I was working full-time at Starbucks. So that was just the perfect option for me, is the fact that I could finish my assignments whenever I needed to. Since, like you mentioned, restaurant hours, Starbucks hours can be kind of similar. I was waking up at 4 a.m. on Monday and then coming in at noon on Friday. So I had like random spots of time, and it was really great to be able to complete it. And then also you get the opportunity to do a practicum, which just led me to find really cool resources in the city I was living in. And I ended up doing a really cool program with refugees in Kentucky, which I would never have heard about if I hadn't been forced to go look for it myself.
Awesome. Yeah, that online course is a great option for a lot of people. I know for me, that's what I took as well. So, depending on your schedule and what you have going on for work and things like that, it can be a great option. So Kenny, what about you? Which course did you take?
Let's see, I took the course in July of 2017, and it was actually an online course. I also did it for the same reasons Alyssa did it. I was working a full-time job, and I also had a part-time job, and so there was no flexibility at all, and I couldn't go to the academy and spend go there 9 a.m. and spend it all day just getting my TEFL certificate. So I did it online, and I feel like I learned a lot from the course. There are a lot of methods and approaches that I've never, still do apply in class. It's just very helpful to know like the different students you have, because I have kinesthetic learners, I have the read and write. The course just was really rigorous and in-depth, and really helped me become the teacher I am today.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think, both of you guys touched on it. The flexibility of it is huge. It allows you to get started and maybe get the ball rolling with things before you're ready to necessarily make the jump and move abroad. Maybe it's 6 months away or 8 months away. You can go ahead and get started with things and really sort of ease yourself into the whole process. And I think that, helps a lot of people. I know it did for me, and it sounds like it did for you guys too. So cool. Getting back to Asia, I want to talk about the food a little bit. I know I said I was going to come back to it, and this is I feel like I talk about this with people all the time on the phone when I talk about Asia, is Asian food, whether it's Korean food or Chinese food or Vietnamese food. Alyssa, tell us a bit about some of your favorite foods in China, some of the weird foods, some of the fun foods, I know you just said the hot and spicy festival.
Oh, yeah.
You hear a bit about that as well. I know China loves their spicy food, their hot pots and things like that. So tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so a food that when I came here that I ate all the time, and I'm actually like so excited to eat again, like this weekend, just thinking about it, is malatong, which is kind of like you have like this broth. You can get it on the street where they have malatong restaurants, and you can pick just whatever you want to put in it. And I was never a spicy food person until I moved here, and now like I still wouldn't consider myself a spicy food person by like China standards, but by American standards I can handle a lot more than I could when I left. Yeah. And my boyfriend and I were going to this malatong restaurant. We could not read the name of it because reading Mandarin is very difficult, and so we finally like found an English menu there, because we were just pointing. Malatong's really easy to do when you don't know the language, because you just pick your own ingredients. And we found out that we're going to like a specifically spicy malatong restaurant. So that was so funny. But hot pot is great. It's kind of a similar situation. You've got really yummy broth in the middle. There's a brand, Heidi Lao, which is known for their incredible customer service, which is not always renowned in China. You've got like nails, manicures being done, hand massages. Wow. So many crazy options you can get. Like sometimes if my friends and I just want to go get our nails done, we'll go to hot pot. And then also like the hole in the wall restaurants, like, you go to a typical Chinese restaurant in America, they have just like, a few the same options, like the rice, the lo mein, just, the typical stuff. And then when you get to China, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so many noodles everywhere. There's so many noodles. It's incredible. My favorite kind is biang biang noodles, which are noodles that are like so thick and long. You don't order a bowl of noodles. You order like 1 or 2 noodles because they're just too intense. Yeah,
all over Asia, whether it's China or Korea as well, soups, foods that start with a broth, often like a fish broth or a veggie broth or something, are very popular. Noodles everywhere. So that's certainly common throughout Asia. And Kenny, we'll talk about some Vietnamese food. I'm sure they have a lot of, you've got a pretty strong opinion on this, I imagine. So talk a bit about some of your favorite foods and kind of work your way into the Vietnamese coffee, because I know that's a big thing for you as well.
Yeah, so let's see. I remember the time when I was in college and, basically, broke college student. And I would have like a storage full of Maruchan noodles and whatnot. Those costed like 30 or 50 cents for a cup. And I brought it up here because now I'm living in Vietnam. I don't really eat packaged noodles anymore. Like if I'm on a budget and I want to save money, then I just walk down the alleyway and just find like a street side vendor who is selling like an assortment of Vietnamese like dishes, just like pho. It's like basically the beef. It's sweet and savory, and that usually goes for about like $1.20, you know. But I know what is, I am seeing it being made in front of my face. So, you know, like versus eating like cup noodles, you know, just like processed food. So here, what I love about it's like it's fresh, you know, like you see it being made in person, and you know, you kind of get a sense of, you know, what's in it versus cup noodle. You know what I mean? So like that's what I love about Vietnamese food. It's delicious, but it's so affordable.
Yeah.
I actually came to Vietnam with like so much, but I've been paying it off a lot. I've been saving a lot of money. But most of the times I like to go out and eat street food. My other favorite dishes is like bun sale. Basically, it's like a bean sprouts, and you dip it in like a sweet fish sauce, and that might scare a lot of people, but it's like the most amazing thing in the world. And I've grew up on that. And you know, it's also cheaper to take Vietnamese cooking classes as well. I go back home, I promised my mom that I would cook her a mean bowl of Vietnamese pho.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you got to live up to it now. So you got to get some practice. That's awesome. And cool. And Kenny, you just touched on this too, a little bit on money. So we'll kind of make a transition over into that, because I know it's obviously something that people have to consider when they're moving to Asia is the money. So, you know, are you making enough to save? Are you making enough to break even? You know, what's like, and then last also too, you know, how do you get paid? Does your school just pay you, you know, with a check? Do they give you cash? And how does that work?
Well, funny you say that. I actually just got paid in cash.
How about that? There it is.
So, I mean, you know, when I left, pretty much in not a terrible condition, I would say. I owed about 30,000 US dollars in student loans. And, you know, I wanted to pay it early, but every month I was making the minimal payment. Like they wanted me to pay like, you know, 500, but I changed my repayment plan to 200 US dollars a month. And, you know, it said in 18 years, I will completely pay off all my student loans. And I was like, God, I need to get rid of this burden. You know, it's just like, it's so heavy right now. Still a little bit heavy. But when I came to Vietnam, I, you know, got my job at this academic center. At first, they paid me 18 US dollars per hour. But after my probation contract expired, they offered me a new contract. And now I am being paid 20 US dollars for teaching one student and 22 US dollars for teaching a class with more than 2 students. And since, which was when I started working, I have paid off 12,000 US dollars to my student loans. So you can save a lot of money, but what I do recommend for people who are living in Vietnam for their first time is spend your money wisely. You know, like I know some people feel like kings and queens in Vietnam because the standard of living is just so low. I mean, a bowl of pho, $10 in the US. A bowl of pho, if you find a good local spot, like $1.50. A lot of expats just blowing their money away, but then again, it's their life, not mine, you know. But you can save here. I've tried to send home US dollars a month, but some months I kind of have to splurge a little bit if I want to travel here and there. So if you want to, you know, be financially free of debt, then Vietnam is the place. Like I heard somebody here, they paid off like 40,000 years. So I'm on my way to financial freedom, and I cannot wait.
That's amazing. And I know, you know, a lot of times we talk about China and Korea being these places where you can really save a lot of money. I know I was able to save quite a bit in Korea as well. And Alyssa, we'll get to you in a second. But that's amazing to hear, Kenny, that you can save so much money in Vietnam, and that, you know, I think a lot of people want that Southeast Asia experience. Maybe they don't want to go to Korea or China. They want to be in Southeast Asia. And it's really cool to hear that you can still have that, have those financial benefits in that part of the world. So that's really awesome.
Thank you.
And Alyssa, so in China, working on that tourist visa, do people, is there a difference in pay on which visa you have? And tell us a bit about, you know, how your employer pays you and what that situation is like.
There's definitely a difference in pay. So For my job, I make about like a fifth less of what someone with a Z visa would make. So it's really not too much of a difference because of the fact that I am getting paid really well still. Feel really lucky to have a job that pays me well. I will say that oftentimes if you're working in a tier 2 or tier 3 city, you won't make more than like 10,000 kwai, and let me just like make sure I can translate that to you guys in US dollars. So like 10,000 kwai is about 1,500. So that's like when you're making the bare minimum, right? It's making 1,500 a month. And that will usually include your housing. So that's like something that I have to consider whenever I'm talking about this. I make like 2,400 a month, and I'm usually able to save about 2,000 to 1,800 of that because my housing is provided for me by my job, which is really cool. And then if you have a Z visa, like just wow, look at how much I see people posting all the time about what they should be getting offered. And so if you are looking for a job in China and you are being offered under 20,000 kwai, I would say that you're especially if you're coming on a Z visa, you need to be looking for another job because there are jobs out there that pay that much. But just like Kenny has said, like the standard of living or the cost of living is so much lower than it is in the US. My friends and I will go out to like an intense vegan brunch in like a really bougie Western area. And the three of us will like eat out for an hour and like treat ourselves, and it'll be 45 US dollars. Whereas if you went to a vegan brunch anywhere, I would say even in like Kentucky, Ohio, Midwest, it's going to be $45 for each of you. If you're getting like the amount of food that we're getting. So those things are just, it's like our splurging items are still within the realm of like normal payment, normal costs here, which is really cool. But people do, like Kenny said, treat themselves like kings and go crazy sometimes. It's true. So when you move here, you have to.
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta treat yourself too. But another thing too, I think Alyssa kind of alluded to it, is that when you're looking for your job, it's not like you just have to take whatever job is given to you. There is so much opportunity to teach in China and in Vietnam as well. So work with your student affairs advisors. A huge advantage of working with us is that you have a team of people to help you find these good schools. It's not like you're totally on your own hoping for the best. You actually have reviews and people who have worked with these schools and know that they're good. So that's a great resource for you, our student affairs department. We're coming up on the end here. Really quickly before we wrap things up, I just want to do a quick shout out for our ITA Film Festival. It is April 4th, coming up in a couple weeks. If you're in Chicago, definitely buy a ticket. They're only $15. It's all going to a great cause as well. And you get to see 12 really cool videos from some of our alumni who are living abroad. It'll be a really cool event. So definitely check that out if you guys are in Chicago. Now, Alyssa, Kenny, thanks so much for joining us today. We're going to talk, one last thing before we leave here. Tell us a funny story. I'm going to start with Alyssa. Kenny, we'll let you finish. A funny story that's happened to you in the last month or so teaching in Asia. Something that's, someone approached me on the street and asked me if I was this person or what it was. So a quick funny story that happened to you in the last month.
Oh, okay. So the other day I was in like a KFC with friends, and one of our friends like definitely looks a little bit like a celebrity. And so these women were just flocking her. They couldn't handle it. They were like, "Are you Drew Barrymore?" And she just went with it, which, I mean, morally you have to decide for yourself whether that's right or wrong. But these women are walking around now somewhere in China thinking that they met Drew Barrymore, and they are over the moon about it.
That's great.
I love that.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's just having a little fun. And Kenny, what about you? Do you have a good funny story that was maybe typical of someone teaching in Asia?
Yeah. So when you go to Vietnam, foreigners are treated like celebrities, you know. Tell me that I don't really look Vietnamese, but I remember one time I went to a city called Can Tho. It's basically south of Ho Chi Minh City, a small city, not many expats or foreigners there. So I remember one time when I was like with my family, I'm walking down the street, you know, I was like just speaking, you know, English and whatnot to my other friend, and just a whole bunch of kids and like these mothers came by. They had like babies and they wanted to take a picture with me and my friend. And so it's just like, it's really weird because, you know, like I'm nobody back home, but I'm somebody to them. So it's just when that happens, you know, just getting the celebrity treatment, because I've never had that experience before. So
yeah, no, it's the same in Korea as well. You know, there are so many expats there, so I don't know, it might not be quite as intense, but someone will come up with you with their phone and they're like, oh, here, you know, take a picture. And you're like, oh, you go to take their phone to take a picture of them and they just get behind you and you're taking a picture with you. And you're like, what? It's fine. All right.
Well, yeah, it's usually pictures, but now like the moms are just handing their
like, babies.
Yeah, like they don't say anything. Just like here, and then they get their cameras out, taking pictures of you.
Oh, that's really funny. So yeah, so you know, teaching in Asia is such an incredible experience. I know you guys are, you know, in two, you know, very different places. They're both in Asia, but very, very different. So there's so much to offer all across Asia. Such a great place to teach in terms of finances, culture, you know, getting to travel. It really is an amazing experience. So for all you guys who are thinking about making the leap across the world, definitely go for it. You really will, you'll be very, very happy you did, and it will probably change your life. So thanks so much again, guys, for joining us. This is going to wrap things up for today, but yeah, look for some material from Kenny and Alyssa on our website. They're our alumni ambassadors, so there's some great stuff from them on our website as well. But yeah, thanks again for joining us, guys, and we'll see you later.
Bye.